Welcome to Like Mother, Like Murder. I am Rachel.
And I'm Heather.
We bring you the good,
The badass,
and the crime.
This is Like Mother, Like Murder.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Like Mother, Like Murder, your favorite true crime momcast. I am Rachel.
And I am Heather, and each week we bring you mom-related true crime content from missing moms to murdered moms, moms who murder, survivors, and much, much more.
Yes, we do. And the other thing that we bring is just we bring the greatness. And this week and last week, we have been very honored. We are so privileged that we've had podcast takeovers. And that is happening again today. We have a very special podcast joining us today. We have Mandy and Avery with Thick Thighs and Creepy Vibes, and they are going to be taking over. So can you guys say hi and introduce yourselves? And we're just so happy to have you here.
We're so happy to be here. So I'm Avery.
And I'm Mandy. And Avery, you can go because I know you love to tell how much.
Yes.
I currently have a leg too, so maybe you should talk so there's no like in between.
So Avery, if you want to, since she kind of passed it to you, do you want to tell everyone all about Thick Thighs and Creepy Vibes and then just give like a little bit about you guys?
Totally. So Mandy and I have been friends for just over 10, 11 years now. Our favorite part of the story is knowing that I used to date Mandy's cousin, and after we broke up, Mandy won me in the divorce, as we like to say. So she's kind of like been around with me this whole time.
Yeah.
I used to babysit her son a lot, so I was kind of just like forced to be around Mandy.
You
She
still
kind of, like
okay?
roped me in and like kept me there. So
Yeah.
I'm still here.
She's still roping. What do you think this is?
Exactly. But yeah, Mandy and I have always joked around saying like we're the funniest people ever. Like we need to record ourselves. We need to start a podcast. And then during COVID, we were like, yo, like we love true crime shit. Let's start talking about it.
Yeah.
We him and hawed it for a very long time. And we're like, nobody's going to listen to us. Like, why? Why should we do this? And then we just bit the bullet. And we've been thriving ever since.
Yes.
We put out... Right now, it's currently like 100% Canadian content. So we're covering a lot of cases within Canada involving Canadians. And then specifically, we like to target in on missing and murdered Indigenous women and like youth. So yeah. We like to really
I love that.
tune in on like one thing. 'Cause it's such a big epidemic in Canada. And the numbers are absolutely disgusting. Every time Mandy and I do a case, we're like, ugh. Like, why? Why is this a thing? Why does this keep growing? And unfortunately, at mass numbers like that, the media is not covering it to the extent. So we're trying to do our little share and just throw some stories in here and there. So yeah.
Well, you're doing a great job, and I love that. It's fun for us. So I know we have known each other through the podcasting world for quite some time now. We've been in different groups together and been exposed to one another. And this is the first time we're actually sitting on the mic together, which is exciting. But it's fun for me on this, in the States to be able to like listen to podcasts that only cater towards, Canadian crimes or different things like that. So I love that is your niche. That is what you guys are focusing on. And my heart and my soul is all like missing people right now. So the more you guys do that, the more I'm like, can we just all talk about that 24/7 until it stops?
Right? It's wild how many cases are out there. And we're like, oh, like we're barely hitting the edge of the iceberg.
And it keeps happening like on a daily. Like we're getting notifications here in Canada, in Ontario, out east of just like missing children. Like right now, there's a big case for Lily and Jack out in Nova Scotia, and that is like one of the saddest cases that's happening right now. But prior to that, there was another little boy out there, and for anybody who's ever been out east to Nova Scotia, which I have, with my oldest, these properties are up in the hills or out in the middle of nowhere, and the amount of property that's backed onto them goes miles and miles and miles. So it's so many places for them to hide and get lost. And I know there's so many other sinister things that go along with it, but not even just that. I know here in Ontario locally, there's been some boys who have, I know there was a boy who went missing. They recently found his body. He was 15, but there's constantly things that just keep showing up in the news. And as a mother, it's scary. And even someone who isn't a mother, I mean, if you've got family who's going off, I know Avery, her dad camps a lot solo, and that's scary too, because you're off somewhere that you don't know where they are, and anything could happen at any time. So our focus is to kind of get those missing ones out there, as well as like a lot of the unsolved cases. And unfortunately, with missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and youth, there's too much of it. And the majority of it is unsolved, and those lists are way too long. So,
right. Especially out here. I mean, we do have a big, we have a big audience that is in the US and minimal for us as Canada, for our listeners, which is kind of sad for us too, because we need that information and we need to pass it along to those Canadians. But at the same time, getting it out to, the US, out to Europe and other places around the world is important, because do you know people I talk to who don't even know what a residential school is? They just don't have that understanding. So it's the history that goes along with these cases and everything else that's really sad for us. So we want to make sure we're educating people and getting them out there. And one of the great podcasts, I will say, I'm going to plug someone in here, but I talk to them, and it's the Nightmares of the Americas, Indigenous Tales. And they also have another one called True Terror on Tap. And they're in the U.S., but they focus a lot on both Canadian and U.S. and the Indigenous past and their histories and people who have been murdered and who are missing. So if that's a good one to share to get the stuff out on your side, and having that kind of like venue to get in with our information to pass along as well. So we try and focus a lot on getting those podcasts to share our content at the same time. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I think, I will definitely admit that before I was into, like the community of true crime podcasting, obviously in America, we have a different kind of population of women. Usually it's the Black and missing women who are just severely, their stories are not told. Their cases go cold. And interestingly, at the last time we were at CrimeCon, they had both of these groups there. They had the Missing and Murdered Indigenous group, and then they also had Black and Missing group. And you can really just see, the similarities there. And I will say that one of the first podcasts that I listened to it before we were even podcasting, but it was, when I had first started listening to podcasts, was Someone Knows Something. And in those later seasons, he covers some very, very just these tragic cases, and you really get a feel for the epidemic that is happening. And obviously a lot of it, just population wise, is in Canada, but we also have a decent amount in Washington and Oregon, and you hear about these cases, and it's just, and that's what's crazy. Unless you're tuned into it, you don't hear about it, right? And that's why it's really great what you guys are doing. And like you said, even if you're making inroads in the US, I think it's definitely one of those issues that needs to be as widespread as possible, because it's definitely one of those ones that, like people didn't even know that this is a major.
And that's what I love about Somebody Knows Something with David Ridgen. Is
grossly disgusting how large it is.
So David Ridgen is like amazing with his cases and things he touches, and he's CBC. So for us, it's very Canadian for us, and he's local. I think he's in Hamilton, which is about 45 minutes from where we live. And I love his journalism and just how he gets out there and he gets on the road. And I think I know for a fact we covered a case, and I covered it because I listened to that podcast, was Christine Heron. And that was a murder that was very local to us as well. I've been in that park with my children. And so the fact that he was able to help that family basically get a little bit of closure, I think is amazing. He did the same thing when there was a little boy who was missing in the woods. He was doing his best. He still works with that family There's a few other Indigenous tales that he worked with missing and murdered Indigenous women who I know we covered a case on Carrie Brown, and there was another one from Niagara Falls, and he goes in and the stuff he uncovers that even, the OPP or the RCP are covering is amazing as a human being. But you can see, like, you can hear his passion through all of it and just feel the love that he has for his community and these people. So I think that, spreading awareness on his podcast too is amazing, because who knows what'll come out of it. But yeah, I learned so much from him and his approach on things. And I know we had a case too that's local to us, so many local ones that we touch on, but there was one and it's still unsolved from back in like the early 90s. And I remember saying to Avery in that episode, I said, we need to contact David because I think he needs this as a next case because it's unsolved. So I'm like, he can do it. I'm sure he can. I mean, he helped so many other people. So,
oh yeah.
So have you contacted him?
Not yet. I went to gather my things. I keep thinking about it. I'm like, damn it, I gotta do it.
Write that down your homework. I will write that down.
Homework, I know. Yeah.
I feel like I'm in school. I will get that homework. I think that's one of the things. I know when you guys were on with Mikey on mute, the unsolved cases. And again, like, this goes back to our conversation yesterday or last week as well, with Cold and Untold with Amanda and Denise, and covering the cold cases and the missing and the unsolved and focusing on those. But Mandy, you said it about the whole, I don't want to talk about, the serial killers that get all of this information and notoriety and like this fan, like,
following.
It's ridiculous. And it really is.
Like, we should be romanticizing the killer in this situation. Let's get their name out there, like the victims. Let's highlight them.
Yeah.
It's funny because Mandy and I have so many cases where, especially lately, I feel like lately all of our episodes have been very like victim focused, and it can be a little easy to fall in and like talk more about the person who committed the crime. But I think it's been like the last 3 of my episodes where I've just straight up like not even cared to like learn how to pronounce the
our last one we just posted
or the accused name.
Perpetrator.
Yeah, I was like, I don't fucking know how old they are. And Mandy's like, yeah, they don't deserve it. And I was like, yeah, whatever.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Or
I'm pretty sure we've spent a few episodes never giving the name once and then just calling them like a fuck.
I've done that too.
Yeah. They don't deserve anything else. There was one, and it was mine again, and I couldn't pronounce the guy's last name. And it started with like Leb something. Mandy's like, just Leb can fuck off. And I was like, yes.
The fuck I don't.
That's it. That's what we're going to call him.
Yeah. Something that I've done a few times, like on our podcast, is I have tried to like separate the, killer from the victims. And so I do like a part 2 that is much shorter. It's some details and stuff like that, but trying to keep them as separate from what I'm trying to get the point across and get covered. And we actually had someone she's a survivor out here. Her name's Holly K. Dunn. She saw her boyfriend at the time killed right in front of her.
Wow.
And he's the railroad serial killer and had so many other murders after. It was years later that all of this came out. But I ended up separating that, and she reached out to us and was like, thank you so much. Like, that is something that is beautiful. And she was just very, very appreciative. And so I think moving forward, I've done that a few more times because like I saw how much it made a difference. Or even for myself though, like as I was telling it, it's like you really do get to focus on only the uplifting or in hers, I say uplifting because she was a survivor, but in those other cases, what needs to be told, what needs to be focused on, and not give any sort, like an ounce to that other person.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do have to talk about them though, because
it is hard.
So they're part of the case, and they got to explain the background to it and why he is the way he is and what led up to that situation. And it's unfortunate. Like I know Avery and I learned that because we had locally, it was Psychology of a Serial Killer. And it was a show that we went to in Kitchener. And so this woman, she's She's a psychologist. Since she was little, she watched someone die in front of her. And she's like, I just really, really got into it and wanted to figure out what was happening. And she got into the minds of all the famous serial killers, and she broke it down in a way that you wouldn't even think about or realize, which gives us a different perspective to our research, and we're going into cases on people who have killed more than 3, because that's your serial killer right there. And it was a really, I'm so glad we went to that and watched that, because it's a whole new outlook then.
It was really kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, you can learn so much, and like just it's so insightful, and the experience is I'd almost like great in a way, because you're just taking so much from it. That's how I feel about certain like seminars and stuff at CrimeCon, which we're going to go again just as guests, but going there and seeing people talk and seeing the reason that they are doing what they're doing, why they got into this profession, whether they are a survivor and now they're helping other people, or if this has just been their profession and they've helped so-and-so family, right? It's like, I love stuff like that.
Yeah, so cool.
I was curious. I wanted to ask you guys, what is, and you guys can both answer, what is one of your favorite episodes that you guys have done, and why? Whether it's like because you really wanted to get the story out, if it was someone you had on that you loved working with, if it was just you two had the best time ever and you always think back to that one. I just love that, because I know Heather and I have some that we look back on that we're like, this is the best.
That's a good one. I would say, so we have 2 different types of episodes. So we have a regular content episode, which covers like all the different true crime stuff. And then we kind of throw in some legends and hauntings in there. But then we have our Sunday Scaries episode, which just kind of like breaks it up in the middle. It's a little bit of a palette ends every month. And we kind of have fun with that. We read Reddit stories and share our own experiences, that type of stuff. So out of our Sunday Scaries episodes, I would say my favorite is the one where my son joined us and he read some stories from Reddit.
Yeah.
So we decided, we went camping that weekend, and we were camping in my trailer, recording it inside my bedroom in the trailer. And he picked the theme, and the theme was people who have experienced like the loss of a pet and experienced them come back, or people who moved in somewhere where there was like, they were haunted by like, you know, a pet that was there before. They could feel it, or things would move, or hear barking, or see things. And so It was just a fun episode to have with him, because a couple weekends prior to that, he had experienced his first paranormal experience at a popular location in Aurelia that we actually did an episode on. It was Huronia Regional Center, which was a psych ward at the time, back in the day. And so I went to the cemetery that was there. And during our trip, because it's down the street from my uncle's, he was like, Mom, he's like, I had my first experience. So I was like, hey, buddy, get you to come on this podcast. And I even told this story. But I think out of the Sunday Scaries, that was my favorite. And then out of our regular episodes, well, that's a good one. We've had so many great stories that we've told.
I know, there's so many.
Anytime that I think about this, I just have a different answer.
Yeah,
Because there's so many, right? Right now we're sitting at 64 episodes, regular episodes. And I would say
64 regular content
Yeah.
episodes.
I think our first episode is my favorite, because we didn't know what the hell we were doing. And we were like, guess what? We're going to drink a bunch of wine and we're just going to record an episode and have fun with it. And it was unhinged, and I like it. Sounds good. That's always
It was very unhinged. I agree with Mandy on the first one also too. We did like a split episode, so we each did a case, and they were like vastly different too. Mandy did one about this lover's leap, and then I did this like mystery out in Amherst, and it was just kind of like special to me too, because my grandma was born out there, and I was like, oh, maybe there's like some little family ties. And I've done a couple episodes that like there's a possibility of like a connection to my family, and I just haven't been able to like find the key component to like piece stuff together. So I've done 2 of those, and I would say like those ones are probably my favorite. And then same with Mandy, like I have a favorite Sunday Scaries, and it's one where my mom came on with us actually.
Yes.
I was up taking care of my mom. She had some surgery, and this woman, I understand why I'm traumatized now, because she like straight up told us on the podcast that, oh, she grew up in the house that I grew up in, and her, when she was little, like she always had to have her doll carrier in front of the door because she was so scared of her closet. And they had this like medium come in the house, and the medium told my grandparents like, get that little girl out of the room. So then they switched my mom's room around, and like a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, that's my room, isn't it? And she went, well, yeah. It's like, I wasn't sleeping in there again, so I put you in there. I was like, you fucking asshole.
Hello, your mom. It builds character, she said.
Problem now.
She had no problem throwing me in there. I was like, you were a child and your parents removed you from the room. That's exactly what she said. It builds character.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of my favorites.
Oh my gosh.
And like my mom was so savage about it. She's like, hey, you survived. It's fine. I was like, well, I guess you're right.
I love your relationship.
It was awesome, Mo.
So good.
Yeah, that is great.
She's a special lady.
That is good stuff. I think back to like the beginning of our podcast too, and how similar, you know, when you guys said like first one, we actually did the same thing where our first episode, we both brought a case and we had said like, we're going to see how this goes and we might share episodes and we might go back and forth. No, it was the only episode that we both brought a case, and then ever since then it's just been back and forth. But that's fine. And we drank a lot. So there's that as well. A whole heck ton.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being like scared. I was like, Mandy, I'm going to push okay. I'm going to push publish. And she's like, do it.
Oh,
and we
yes,
like,
that's
did a
so
big
bad.
celebration. I'm like, okay, now we're watching it and like immediately waiting for a number to pop up. And I was like, we should probably put our phones down now.
That is going to get that into world. Well, we knew it would get downloaded because we downloaded it.
We did too. We do with ours. Yeah.
We also had to go to the store that day, remember?
Wait, what'd you go to the store for?
Okay, so we get started to record. We're at my house. Took us forever to record. I think you didn't go home till like 2 a.m. And it was a Friday night. We started like, I think he came over at like 5 or 6. And then we realized we didn't have the proper equipment for her Mac to like plug in our Amazon microphones. And then we were like, okay, how do we do this? And then my son would leave us alone like this. We got to go to Best Buy. Like 10 minutes before it closed, we were like, let's run to Best Buy. Like, we need these things. And it was fun. We figured it out. We didn't even know how to like record it in GarageBand. We just Googled it. It was good times.
We Google.
Here we are. Well, still sorting it out.
I was going to say we Google everything, but no, Heather just answers everything for me, as you guys already have been exposed to. I do have, okay, so I have like one more question that I always think about, and I think this is another thing. Like, we're, you know, doing a true crime podcast, this is something that is always on my mind. So I love to hear what people's answers are. But if there was one case that you guys have talked about and covered that you would want to see a resolution in, I know it's hard because it's like the answer is every single one of them, Rachel. Duh.
All of them?
I know. I know.
Um,
But like, what's the one that's always on your mind that you can't stop thinking about and you just need answers?
I'm thinking, I don't know if you're thinking.
I think mine is, oh, man.
I was thinking for you. Like, I have one that I think you would be interested in, like, wanting to solve is the Leah. Is that her name? I can't remember it.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I knew it.
Yeah. So I covered a case a while ago about this young girl named Leah. She was killed in the middle of the night in her house. Her friend found her the next morning in the backyard, just in a horrible state. Her mother was beaten. Her little brother was left untouched, though, thank goodness. But it's now been like 28 years, and there's still no answers. There's no nothing. There was no DNA. It was just a horrible, horrible thing. And I actually know of the case because I went to college in the area, and I had family in the area. Mandy has family in that area. So like this little tiny town off of this kind of big highway going up to like the cottage area near us, it was just such like a whirlwind thing. And when I was in college, me, my ex, my roommates, we all went to go view this one house that we were going to possibly rent, and the murder happened next door to that house.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it was just, I remember covering I knew about it. We knew about it when we went to go view the house, and then when I covered the case, I was like, this is truly disgusting. Like, this poor little girl, there's no answers, there's no nothing. So that's one that I think I would really want, just because there is such a strong connection. Again, Mandy and I, like, we spend so much time in that area. I was possibly going to live in the house right beside it, but
Yeah.
I think it was that one. Yeah.
Wow. And that is so sad for, I mean, for her, but for everyone there. And to know, like, just when people find, especially children, when young people find their friends, their family, their people, it is the saddest thing.
Oh my gosh. Trauma for life.
Yeah.
Wow.
She was like 13, 14. Like, she was young, and her friend just happened to come over called the house a bunch of times and was like, oh, maybe she's already out playing. Like, I'm going to go around to the backyard, and saw her laying there face down and thought she was asleep out there, and then panicked. And I was like, no preteen, teenager, child should ever have to see something like that, let alone your best friend. But
It's awful.
that's definitely one that I would like to crack down on and, like, actually get answers.
Yeah. Right, Mandy, how about you?
Mine is, I know you ladies also covered the case, is Amber Takeover, who has been missing since she was 21, and her son still has no answers. He was a baby at the time that she went missing out in Alberta, and the fact that they have a recording of the man who she was in the car with and nobody's been caught is horrifying. And to the fact that where they found her body, they found 3 other Indigenous women in the exact same area. And to me, that's a serial killer in the same area. So I don't know how they haven't been able to at least get something. And that case for me really sticks too, because we were actually contacted by a woman who lives locally to us. And she found our podcast through a small business podcast that is about where my parents have their trails, about an hour and a half from where we are. And she's like, oh, I found you through them, because I'd been chatting with them. I think I found that podcast on Reddit. So we started chatting. And then this woman, she's an author, actually. She's like, oh, I found your podcast and I listened to your episode on Amber Takeover. She's like, and you mentioned a name. And she said, that was my cousin. That one of the other bodies they found in that area, that was my cousin. And she's like, at that time, she's like, I remember when that happened. I didn't know her. I guess she was adopted and she ended up living out in Alberta. But she's like, I remember when all that happened, and I went and visited her, like, her gravesite and the spot, like, where they found her and stuff like that. So she said, thank you for saying her name. And I know you were talking about another woman, but thank you so much for talking about her and giving her a story at the same time. And for us, we had, a couple of months in, we had started in March, and we did this episode in June for Indigenous People Day. And I was just blown away by that. And we went onto her website, 'cause she's like, I did a blog on her and finding out about it and how I felt. I was so young at the time, and seeing, the grave we put up for her and all these things. And so for me, that's always stuck with me, that I'm like, we've been able to reach people. And if we can reach someone who, was family to one of these victims, how are we not still able to reach other people who have clues and have information and tips to pass along to the RCMP to, put this person behind bars and let her family have some sort of justice in knowing who did it. So that's one of the main cases that sticks with me for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I remember, so after we covered that, so actually I won't say we covered that, Stephanie Morum, Wicked Ever After, she came on. She did with us, yes, and she, love her. She's amazing. And you wrote me. Oh, she is on the shirt. Look at her. You ended up messaging and telling us exactly that, and saying, like, how that had happened and just how wild it is. But that 911 call, like, you mentioned it, and it is just, those are the ones that stick with me the most. It's like, when you hear about a case that has not a single thing,
Right.
and you're scraping and you're questioning and you're wondering and you're begging and you're pleading and you're praying and you're, whatever, to find a clue, to find just anything. and then there's something like this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then also, like, how do you not, if there's been, numerous bodies, is it 4 or 5 that were found in the same spot? 4?
I think it was
4, yeah. It was
3
Amber and then
Amber.
3 other. Yeah. So
Yeah.
how are you not just staking cameras and like fully putting a surveillance system out there? It's baffling. So
Exactly.
that that one is so crazy, so crazy. Okay, so I am done putting you guys like hotspot and racking your guys' brains, but thank you for bearing with me in that moment. I love asking so many questions, and I could do this for 5 more hours. But you guys have a case, and you are taking over, and Heather and I are kind of gonna pass the mic over to you, and we're gonna sit back and hang out, and we will be here for extra commentary, but do your thing. We're so excited to be here on your guys' as a Christmas takeover right now.
We love it. We're excited. Yeah, no, I'm so glad we got to get together. So today we're going to cover a case that we've actually already covered on our podcast, and we're covering its case episode 48 on Thick Thighs and Creepy Vibes. And today's case is actually a tragic one that's local for both of us. It took place January 26, 2023. So it's very, very fresh still. And this case was very shocking, disturbing, and heartbreaking. The small northern town of Collingwood, Ontario. Sentencing for the accused was finally determined just this year on February 10th, 2025.
I will say I'm glad to hear that off the bat.
Yes, and we're so happy too, and sad it took so long. But the Canadian justice system over here is slow as shit, and it was also just in the brink of COVID, so it was very, very slow process. But we brought this episode too because we know you've been working with a few other mothers in regards to filicide, and our case today is actually around domestic violence. So we're kind of taking the other approach to it, and I wanted to kind of share that along that way because, these women have lost their children, and, this case has some children who lost their mother, unfortunately. Yeah. So in the early morning of January 26, 2023, an employee was making his way to work at the Alpine Ski Club within the Collingwood ski region known as the Blue Mountains. That morning was an extra cold, dark and snowy drive with road conditions and visibility not the greatest. So typically in these towns in Blue Mountain where it's located, we call that kind of like our northern area, and winters there get pretty rough, they get pretty snowy, they get pretty icy. And when you're close to these ski hills, they're not always maintained the best. And when, snow blows in, wind blows in, conditions can be to the point where they're whiteouts and a lot of roads get closed around that area. So it was kind of along those lines on that morning. Since visibility wasn't great, this employee was doing his best to keep his eyes on the road when he noticed an orange glow in the distance ahead. Unsure what the glow was, he decided to pull over to check it out. He was immediately hit with a strong smell of gas and burning rubber. In the ditch, several meters below the road, was an SUV engulfed in flames. Soon the road was blocked off by fire trucks, emergency responders, and OPP. So, OPP is Ontario Provincial Police, for those who aren't familiar with Canadian terms. And they were on site. So typically when you call 911, we're getting all of the vehicles that show up. You're getting fire, you're getting an ambulance, and then you have the OPP. OPP officers found a blackened Mitsubishi Outlander, which was owned by James Schwalm. OPP officers found a blackened Mitsubishi Outlander, which was owned by James Schwalm, a 38-year-old firefighter from Collingwood, Ontario. Inside, investigators discovered a charred human corpse curled up in the passenger side footwell. Since the remains were burned beyond recognition, they could not tell at that moment if it was James's remains inside this vehicle.
But when an autopsy was done on the body, dental records confirmed that it was the remains of Ashley Milnes Schwam, James's wife. The report noted that her muscles and bones gave no evidence that she died in a car crash. None of the skull, rib, or limb fractures typically seen in a collision victim. Her death was due to neck compressions. She'd been dead long before the vehicle was even set on fire. So we're going to go back a little bit and just talk about what led to the murder of Ashley and the beginning of her and James, and kind of what was happening during the time of this incident. And I will say that I'm going to refer to her as her maiden name. I do not want to give her her married name. She deserves her maiden name after what she went through.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about James just a little bit. Let's get that out of the way first. So James was born into a very happy, loving, and devout Christian household. They were part of well-known foundations and educational programs. His mother, Diane, was an executive in the entertainment industry who sat on the boards for the Jays Care Foundation, which is part of the Toronto Blue Jays baseball team, the Toronto Santa Claus Parade, and the Canadian Tourette's Foundation. And in 1998, she also co-created Canada's Walk of Fame.
She's busy.
Very. Those are big names. Those are big events. Those are big corporations to be part of.
Yeah.
Foundations in
Right.
Toronto and the big city. So James had a very supportive upbringing.
It just instantly makes me think she's not around much.
No. I mean, I'm sure sounds like they got money, so I'm sure he had nannies, these type of things. Yeah. And the family he grew up in, helped him achieve his goals. And I believe they helped push him to his career, which was to become a firefighter. So in 2009, he became part of the Brampton Fire and Emergency Services team and became acting captain about a year after. So that's really quick to jump the ranks. I mean, it's really hard to get in as a firefighter to begin with, and to kind of make those steps within a year. He was definitely hardworking, or he knew people, one or the other. I would say by the family he grew up in, he knew people. So growing up, James was also an avid skier. His family were members of Craigley, which is a private ski club in the Blue Mountains of Collingwood, and they would vacation there most winters. Craigley is actually a really small ski resort compared to Blue Mountain. So Blue Mountain is, for us, to paint a picture, Blue Mountain's about an hour and a half from where Avery and I live. And it's kind of the big popular ski resort here. Like if you go out east, you've got Whistler. I'm sure most people have heard of that. And you go out to Banff, that type of stuff. So Blue Mountains was kind of like the little baby of the area for ski hills. And then around that, surrounding it, you have tiny little small ones that are private, because Blue Mountain Ski Resort is just kind of mainly for the public. I've been to Craigley, actually, ski club. I used to work in insurance. And so I used to have to go mingle with people. And I did spend some time there. It's not that exciting. So I don't know why they wanted to spend their time there. But, each their own. That's fine. And so being a member of Craigley Resort, everyone has their preference. Right? I'm like, I'm not a fan of it. Or maybe then it was like popping in place. I don't know. You got money? It's where you go. It's your vacation. So it was being like part of a community when you were at Craigley. So I get it. I mean, you know everyone there. You know kind of what's going on in the city and the little town. Because it's not that far from Collingwood. And Collingwood is a very small town. It's a very touristy town all year long. Like there's always things to do. And so that's where he ended up meeting Ashley. So Ashley grew up in Toronto, but was also a frequent visitor to the Blue Mountains, because her family also owned a chalet in the area. So if you own a chalet in the Blue Mountains, you have money. You come from money. And we venture there sometimes, but it's definitely...
I was going to ask. I was like, what is a chalet?
It's a little ski house. It's like your little cottage, but like in the mountains. And you call it a chalet because you're going skiing, but it's really just like a house in another location.
Oh,
because they look like little houses, condos.
Cabin in Big Bear. Gotcha.
Yeah.
They're very fancy.
It's just like much fancier wording for...
I'm going to life.
I hope to own a chalet one day.
Did it. Yeah. Hope it comes with a maid, because don't want to clean that.
Get the maid to go with it. Maybe a chef at the same time.
Right.
Nobody wants to clean it.
So Ashley was known as AJ to her family and close friends. She was described as being an avid hiker. She was a runner, a golfer, a tennis player, and she was a Green Bay Packers fan. So this girl was very active. We also described her as warm young woman with an electric smile and unwavering optimism. She was also very smart and motivated, which helped her obtain a few different degrees, which led her to starting to plan her own interior design business. And up in that area, it's a very popular profession to do and to get into, because in that area, they're constantly building these chalets, these condos. They've got tons of houses. Like in that area, you're right located on what's called Georgian Bay. And that is the, cottage country for everybody. So you're going there in the winter. And you're also going in the summer. So people are building their condos for they can come in the winter. And then they're also be like, oh, I want to get my summer home. And there's constantly construction. And my sister's in-laws, they actually own construction companies up that way, interior design businesses up that way. So that's where your money's all sitting.
Yeah.
Because all the people with money are all going up that way.
I was going to say, yeah. And if you have a summer house or you have a winter house, then you're absolutely, since you're not there 24/7, you're hiring someone and you have the money to do so. So you're definitely getting that interior design in there.
Yeah. And they're not cheap. I've seen some of this work and they ain't cheap whatsoever.
Yeah, no.
Gorgeous. I would love one.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Yeah. I definitely can. Not on my single salary.
I'm out on my own. Can't do that.
Yeah. I like the thrift store and I like to get antiques, okay? As long as they're not haunted. That's how I operate.
That is me. Half my stuff's probably haunted, but so far so good.
Knock on wood. Okay. All right.
I know.
So in 2004, her mother unfortunately passed away from cancer, but her family said that didn't stop her from being the person that they knew and loved. She was always there to help lend a hand to anyone else that needed it. Ashley was someone you could talk to about what was going on in your life, said her longtime friend Carrie Dyson. She made everyone feel like the most special person in the world. These same friends would also describe her as having a big, beautiful laugh, one that was contagious. Whenever she started, others around her couldn't help but laugh along with her. Ashley was the definition of the saying, she lights up a room. And we'll have a photo of her, and her smile is just so big, so contagious. You could just see that light that she had and that love that she had that her friends and family describe of her.
Yeah, everything you're saying, you can definitely see that.
Yeah. So in September of 2012, the couple was married at Craigley Ski Club. Once again, I'm so sorry. It's not an exciting ski club. I don't know why she got married there, but that's okay. But she did say it was the most beautiful wedding and it was the most special day for her. Their wedding was featured in there's a local wedding magazine known as Wedding Bells Magazine. And I think my sister's wedding was also in that magazine, because my sister lives about half hour outside of there. Yeah. Was that I'm sure it's the only local one.
It definitely was.
So my sister about a half hour outside of Collingwood, and she was also in that magazine, which is funny because she got married at a golf club that wasn't that exciting either. So it was gorgeous. It was snowing, Every bride thinks their wedding's beautiful.
You know what? You put so much time and effort in there. You're just trying to
Yeah, that's probably a lot of money in there too. Like weddings are not cheap.
Yeah.
Definitely not in this area either.
They're definitely not cheap when you...
She said I've been victim of moments when I was a little girl.
Sorry, I keep cutting you off. I'm going to shut up.
Holler at you, girl. I feel you.
Right, I know.
Been there, done that.
Exactly. Club.
Yeah. I should have asked for half of that bag. I paid for it all. Should have been like, let's just say my red flag, Avery. Avery, you've been here the whole time. Why don't you tell me?
He was already around. You're like, give me the picture. So I just couldn't say anything then.
You're also scared of me. So, I mean, I get it. I
don't have that excuse. I saw the whole thing from start to finish and I've got it. I know, yeah. It's okay.
Sometimes you just got to let them go through it, man. You just got to let them go through it, unfortunately. How life goes sometimes.
Yeah.
You live and you learn. And we're all here drinking our alcohol now. So, you know what?
There we go.
Cheers to us.
We're having a good ass time.
Hell yeah. And I lost my spot again. I need a highlighter on this thing.
Eventually, James was promoted to full-time fire captain, and Ashley started her interior design business, and they went on to have 2 children, a son and a daughter. So everything seemed good for the couple, kind of picture perfect, living a great little happy life that most would kind of dream of. Until the summer of 2021, when their marriage went through some turbulence, causing her and James to venture to counseling. The plan was to work through the strain in their marriage during that time, which it was COVID. You had 2020, 2021. That was the height. That was the beginning. So many people went through strains and so many marriages went through strains. I was definitely one of those COVID divorces. And I will say it's a lot of people, same Avery, a lot of, you learn so much more about a person, unfortunately, during that time. And I think the anxiety, the depression, the mental health of it all got to everybody. And there was, I think, too much of it. But at the same time, it I feel like it kind of had to happen for some people, and other people, unfortunately, it didn't go the way it was supposed to go. So I'm glad that they ventured out to cancel during it, because so many people didn't.
Yeah.
And a lot of people saw worse times.
Right.
So there ended up being rumors about the state of their marriage that started to spread. And you're in a small town, rumors spread quickly. And the community that they had, it definitely spread quickly. So James was drinking more, and in his line of work, not good as a firefighter. And by the end of 2022, both James and Ashley were confiding in their families about wanting to end the marriage. So they had been pushed to that extreme, and now here they are. This isn't going to work. So it is reported that on New Year's Day of 2023, Ashley sent a text to her sister writing all out of love. She even told an old friend that 2023 was going to be her year to prioritize her kids, her health, and her happiness. And it was going to be the year of Ashley. I mean, if that's not a telltale sign that, she's making her way out, you clearly don't know the person that, messaging you.
That's a woman who's made a decision.
Yeah, she's made a decision a long time ago, and she's like, I've tried and I can't do it anymore.
I can speak for myself and others that I know, but you're quiet for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Quiet for a while. And it's once you start vocalizing it that there is no going back. You're done at that point.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. And, I went through the exact same thing. You get to the point where you're like, you know what? I'm just going to sit here. And you can't take it anymore. And then the other half's not okay with it. And you're like, well, sorry. This is where we know that, and there's a thing where people say, like, I've heard people say, whoever leaves the relationship and starts dating another person, it's usually because they cheated. With women, that's not the case. With men, I think yes. With women, you've left that relationship before you actually physically leave that relationship. And that's a conversation that I've had with some people in my life that don't understand it because they've never been through it. And I was in mine for about 10 years, maybe. Yeah, we were together for about 10 years. And it was like we got married. And I think it was like the year after we got married, it started to like crumble. And things started to like go in emotion. Then I was like, okay. So prior to me being like, this is what's happening, I had already physically taken I had mentally, emotionally taken it out of me, because it was like, I keep saying the same things. And there's no changes, there's nothing happening, and I'm already out of it. At that point, women are just like, hey, I mentally, emotionally take myself out of it. And then when they leave, it's because they finally have had to figure out, how am I financially going to do this?
Yeah.
And it's sad for like a lot of women. That's the biggest reason when they leave. It's like, that's the only thing that they had to figure out last, because they've already grieved it while they're in it. And then they're grieving a different portion of it when they leave. So it's, she definitely screamed, I was over this. I was done.
Yeah. It's very clear she was done, checked out.
Yeah. And there was rumors that both of them had cheated. And so the rumor was that
She had cheated with a coworker, a boss of some sort at one time, and they were together. And his wife at the time, so they ended up divorcing. And then Ashley and James went through like their counseling and stuff like that. And then when Ashley was like kind of slowly making her way out and they were going through their stuff, James could feel that. So then he decided, well, you had an affair, I'm going to have an affair. He ended up having an affair with that guy's wife.
What?
Small town things. I don't know.
Let's just close the circle off there. Like,
Yeah.
I
I mean, I've seen it.
I know, like, it's a small town, but that is vindictive.
Yeah. Mhm.
that is like going for just straight blood. Like, you're trying to hurt somebody there and break them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But also, she did it too. So look,
Yeah.
it's a big fucked up situation right there. Yeah. It's a whole lot of mess I didn't want to fully get into, and I didn't want to get into it more, but that's the rumors and that's, small town stuff, unfortunately. And so James had confided in his friend about how he wanted to divorce Ashley, but the thought of that was unimaginable. He couldn't picture sharing custody of the kids. Between legal proceedings, alimony, and child support, the breakup would both emotionally and financially devastate him, and he desperately wanted to find another way. Now, one little side note I will say is that if Ashley died, James would get the house, the custody of the kids, and a $1 million life insurance payout. I mean, when this happens, there's always insurance policies that are
Yeah.
pretty big.
Yeah, definitely see it all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the morning prior to the accident, Ashley fed the kids breakfast. She took them to school, and then she went to work. James finished his overnight firefighting shift. He ran a bunch of errands, and before he came home, he did a few other things. Then he picked up the kids from school. So typical family life. You work a day, whoever works the night shift, you pick them up. That's kind of the system I used to have with my sister, and it works. But after he picked up the kids, he ended up going over to his parents' house. And when he went over to his parents' house, he let his mom know that he'd be taking a long hike the following morning to the Craigley ski resort, their favorite place to go, and that he'd need to borrow his mom's Hyundai Kona to get home. But meanwhile, he went to his mom's house in his 4Runner. Okay? Strange, right? I'm like, well, interesting.
Yeah.
Mom doesn't ask questions, right? She's like, oh, sure, you want my car? All right.
Yeah, make it make sense.
Right? I don't know what he told her. I don't know if he told her he was put into the shop or or if Ashley was taking it or what was going on with it. So before he was heading home that night, James parked the Kona at the Craigley ski resort, picked up the kids in the 4Runner from his mom, and then he went home to see Ashley. She got the kids ready for bed, and sadly, that would be the last night that her children would get a goodnight kiss and hug from their mother. So the next morning, when James' SUV was found burnt, police immediately started making calls to put the missing pieces together of who this body belonged to. Because remember, they didn't know who it was. They just knew that this Mitsubishi belonged to James. Well, they initially contacted Ashley's work looking for her. They figured, let's contact the wife. But they were informed that she never showed up for work that morning, nor did they even receive any calls as to why she was out. And to her coworkers, that was a red flag, something that she never did. So then they said, okay, let's figure out if maybe that's James. Let's figure out what's going on. So they ended up making a visit and did meet with James. So when they were able to speak with him, they let him know that they discovered a body inside the crashed Outlander. And now they finally suspected that maybe that's Ashley. So once James heard the news, of course, he was shocked and upset, wanted to know what happened, where his wife is. And then, when questioned by police, James explained that him and Ashley had actually argued because she wanted to go hiking, but he wanted to walk the dog. Meanwhile, he took his mom's car because he was going for a hike.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they argued because they wanted to do this at the same time,
But who's going to be home with the kids? So they didn't want to leave the kids alone because they were still young. So he explained to the police that why there were gas cans, because they said it smelled like gas. There was a lot of it based on the explosion and the burning. He said that there were gas cans in the Outlander because he had asked Ashley to pick up gas for the snowblower the previous day. So he had picked it up, left it in the Outlander, didn't take it out. Pretty sure the snowblower was back at home.
Yeah.
And so then he took his phone and he showed the officers videos of their doorbell camera, which was him taking the dog for a walk, and then the Outlander backing out of the driveway. But you couldn't see who the driver was. And then he showed them his text messages with Ashley, which seemed to corroborate the story about the gas cans and them being in there.
Yeah, it seemed apparently these text messages between the couple,
It's all
were
stating
premeditated and methodical on his ends. Like, everything has been so completely planned out. It's very obvious. I know where you're going, okay? But I'm like, gosh, this guy. And how ironic, Mr. Fireman, you know what I mean? To do an arson crime. Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I think I said it when Mandy and I were recording the first time, where's the biggest dipshit goes to?
Jeez.
Yeah.
This guy. So those text messages were basically supposed to say, apparently they said I think he sent them between the two phones and to make it look like they were having this conversation. Yeah. And it was her saying, oh, I smell a lot of gas in the car, so I had to roll down the window and I'm feeling dizzy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sorry, but if my husband left gas cans in my SUV that I bought the day prior to put in the snowblower, if it was my ex-husband, I would have had to do it myself, but I would have been like, fuck this, it smells in the car. I'm taking them out. The kids are going to get in this car. Why the hell are they still in here?
Yeah.
So I'm taking them all out and putting them outside. I'm like, there's your goddamn gas tanks, your gas cans, so you can fill up your little snowblower.
Right.
I wouldn't leave them in there. And if he did leave them in there, because say he took the car and he filled them up and forgot to take them out, as soon as I got in the car, I'd smell them and say, not today, take them out. But I wouldn't text him and say, oh my God, it smells really bad in here while I'm driving. I would text him and say, you're a fucking idiot. That's what I would say. But why'd you leave those in the car? How long you been married? You're not going to be like, oh no, I don't feel great. That's I just started dating you for a month text. What?
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
This guy has not the brightest crayon in the box.
Breathe in gas fumes. His brain is not fully processing at this point.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah. Was huffing on them. So OPP drove James home and left him with a couple of friends. And they just figured, don't be alone. They probably were like, this guy's sus. Let's not leave him alone.
Yeah.
So what does James do? Well, he starts notifying friends and family. And he starts calling them and letting them know that Ashley died in a car accident. Playing the grieving husband. So sad. A few days after the discovery of Ashley's body, officers were getting suspicious of James. I think they were already suspicious of James, but they definitely had evidence at this point now. And they definitely didn't believe it was an accident because the tire tread marks from the vehicle during the snowy conditions displayed that it wasn't a car accident. And especially how Ashley was positioned in the passenger side of the vehicle. If she was the one driving, why is she curled up in the footwell? If she's going to try and jump out of that vehicle, she's going the other way. Yeah. She's going out the driver door. She's not getting into the passenger. Because if she's going down the hill, her vehicle most likely would have been on that side where it derailed off the cliff.
He's an idiot.
And I know, right? Guy looks like one too. And the biggest, actually, red flag for them was that they found a lighter. They found a lighter at the scene with James's initials on it.
Okay. Every single person in his life knows
you,
before anything, Every single person was like, he's 100% the one who is guilty. We know
100%.
he's probably talked about it, like, in front of coworkers and stuff. Like, I don't know. This is crazy.
He 100% like masked it as a joke of like, oh, this happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like a movie.
I like an idiot criminal. It makes it easier to
yeah. It doesn't even seem real. Like when you read about it.
Oh yeah. He definitely did not get there because he was a smart, successful guy. It was the family connections. He's an idiot.
The fact that he's a firefighter just blows my mind.
Oh, because his mom knew.
Blows my mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. 100%.
See? Knew people. That's exactly. Yeah. He knew people. Mm-hmm. And most of those people are like, don't know how to socialize and smooge people and be like, oh yeah, like a dirty car sales guy. That's exactly what I picture him as. Like, buy this car for me, and when you take it off the lot, it won't run anymore, and your warranty's void. That type of guy. I don't like him. So Phoebe started to canvass the route that James stated he had taken when he walked the dog, and they were able to get doorbell footage and other video surveillance that did not show James out walking the dog or anywhere along the route he had mapped out for them. So from the security footage that they obtained, they saw a dark figure opening and closing a trunk to an SUV in another ski parking lot, which is called the Alpine Ski Resort. And then another camera caught a similar figure wearing a backpack running down an adjoining road with fire visible in the background. And then another home surveillance system captured the same person running toward Craigley Ski Club,
which is where this whole thing
is where he left his mother's car. Like, I'm sorry, but you've been going to these ski resorts your entire life.
Yeah.
And you don't know they have cameras? All of them have cameras because the amount of cars, equipment, everything. It's a private resort. Did no one tell you? Did you not know that? I'm sorry, but it's 2023. There's fucking cameras everywhere.
So far gone.
I need to tell you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so police decided to examine the in-car navigation and entertainment system of his mom's Kona. And then they learned that the engine had been turned on at 6:01 a.m.
Oh. Yep, sure was.
So the system recorded the car's route into Collingwood, as it did several residential cameras along the way, including one that showed the same backpack figure parking at Kona at, it's called Admiral Collingwood Elementary School, and then running towards their house. So the figure just ran toward James and Ashley's house. Strange. He was just out walking the dog. Dog runs fast. Couldn't even see him.
Also, like, talking about walking the dog, like, the fact that they had to have this conversation, like, when he says, she wanted to go hiking and I wanted to walk the dog and we didn't know who wanted to watch the kids. I'm sorry. A hike, to me, and I know some people walk their dogs longer than I walk my dog, okay? But the point is, you're hiking. That is a freaking half day, full day, whatever. You're walking the dogs, sir. None of it adds up. Like, not that any of this adds up whatsoever, but I'm like, that key, like, when you said that earlier, I'm just like, no. Okay, like, why did anyone even let him leave? He should have been put in handcuffs just from that statement alone. It's so stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I bet. Welcome to Ontario. Like, this is how it works around here. Like,
honestly, what this is reminding me of, Rachel, is Morpheo.
Was that a local one for you?
Yeah. No, but it's reminding me of Suzanne Morphew because, like, you have a guy who clearly planned it out, but when they ask him questions, he's like, why did you have tranquilizers? Oh, squirrels. Like, why were you running around your house? Oh, squirrels. And then they track his car, right? They use the car's computer, and you guys have to hear this guy's words. he said he turned left when he normally turns right because what was it, a deer or something? He was like,
Yeah, no, he said like he saw
I saw a moose. And so it's just like the most off the cuff random stuff. This dude had clearly premeditated this stuff, but like it was so dumb that when they're actually asking him the questions, it was the white dog. Like it's like so tough.
Well, and you said Suzanne Morphew, but what I was saying is also Crystal McDowell, another one that we covered. It's bizarre. These men in these cases, like I said, very thankful. They're such idiots. But another one where like he had like parked his car and then he drove his bike, or he went to Walmart, got a bike, and went through. It was a hurricane in Texas, and he ends up riding the bike back to his house. Like, and it's on camera. It's insane. I'm like, insane. What the hell? And I remember listening to that. Yeah.
Oh, dumb. They like can't piece anything together, which is very fortunate.
I remember listening to that episode and I died because in this case, and this is why men can't get dates. This is why men are like, what? Why, why does this girl want to go on a date with me? Why does she ghost me? Like, I don't understand. Why are you getting mad at me? Like, because half the time you can't find your fucking underwear. So, and then you do stupid shit like this. Like, I just can't. The next speed dating question is obviously going to be, if I go on a hike, do you have time to walk your dog? Why didn't she I would have taken the dog with me. I don't like to go alone. If I'm going out, like, outside, like, yes, the dog is with me. Because I'm a woman, first of all.
2 birds, 1 stone. Like, just do it together.
And, like, I don't think it's a huge hike around, like, where that she was going on. And there are a lot of beautiful trails in that area. A lot of great hiking trails. And she probably had a small one because of the proximity of all of it. But she definitely probably would have taken the dog. I feel like something she would do. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Because there was an article, too, that she used to go on hikes with her old family dog. So why? Why? Every dog is different. That's what I was. My dog, I have tried to take her hiking with me, and she sits down, and then I have to pull her back to the car because she just is like, this is not for me. She's the most girly girl. My big one, Derby, she is just like, I don't do it. She doesn't like water. She doesn't like the outdoors. She likes to lay down on a cold floor and say, this is the life I live. Like, she deserves a chalet. She is not going anywhere else. Like, this is her.
I am a chalet dog. Fish dog. Thank you very much.
I come back. In my next life, I meet a chalet dog. That's what's happening. But not in a household like this. Yeah, no. So, police ended up seizing James's phone and found that in the days leading up to Ashley's death, James had searched alimony. Does a road flare completely burn? And can you see iPhone history after it was deleted? I'm sorry. I love your face. You're awesome.
Stupid.
Deeper and deeper and deeper. Like, the stupidity is real with this one. And it is just, it's insane. Like, what? Yeah. I have no more words. So in February of 2023, James was finally taken into custody and was eventually charged with first-degree murder and indignity to a dead body. So the trial. So James Schwalm pleaded guilty to a second-degree murder in June of 2024, a year and a half after the body of his deceased wife, Ashley Milnes, was discovered by authorities. Many statements were read by family and friends during their court hearings, and I couldn't imagine being in that courtroom. That would be heartbreaking. Yeah. One statement read, James took Ashley's life in the most brutal, senseless way, leaving all of us shattered. James deceived us, saying she died in a car accident. We sat there broken and grieving, while consoling him, even though he knew he was the one who killed her. And that was from Ashley's sister-in-law, Tia. And Tia is actually married to her brother, David. And David and Tia share custody of their 2 children. Good. Which I think is a beautiful thing. Amazing. That's beautiful. That they have them in their life. It was pointed out that James could not handle the disruption to his life that the separation and eventual divorce would entail.
He didn't want to split anything. Like he said to his friend, I don't want to deal with alimony. I don't want to deal with child support. I don't want to lose half of anything. I mean, I think for men, it's their ego for the most part when it comes to all that. That's the biggest thing they don't want to lose. And unfortunately, the price was Ashley's life.
Yeah, well, he's clearly not thinking about his children, so.
No, he's not thinking about them at all.
No. And you could tell with this guy. Yeah. And he seems like someone who definitely wasn't too hands-on with his children if you're doing something like this to their mother. So Justice Fierce stated in the court that the price he took was Ashley's life. And that was referring to the length that James was willing to go to make sure that he didn't lose everything that he had built in his life. Turns out he lost it anyways. Justice Fierce also pointed out that the children were at home and asleep at the time of their mother's demise, and that their father subsequently lied to the entire family, playing the victim once her death was discovered. Now, I will say there was some, this case was so much longer and I shortened it for this episode, but we did go through it in our episode about how the kids had actually woken up during the night, and both the kids woke up. So the son, I think, had woken up and heard some noise, and the daughter did too. They heard the dad say, "Alexa, what time is it?" And one of the children had seen their dad with like hands around the mom's throat, and that he said he was taking mom out. So he left the children alone anyways. He left those children alone in that house, put her body in that car, and drove her off that cliff.
It's disgusting.
And left them alone in that household after what they saw and they heard.
That also reminds me of Crystal McDowell.
Those kids have to live with that. A report by CBC News said Ashley's friend, Carrie Dyson, told the court that she was lost. She stated, "I used to be relatively carefree, happy, and a social person. I'm no longer that person. He has taken my carefreeness away from me, and I don't feel safe. I am always on edge." That is heartbreaking. Yeah. Ashley's father, Ian, called James a narcissist and said that the murder was a calculated act. Exactly what you said, calculated. By someone who only thought of himself and did the opposite of what he trained to do as a first responder firefighter. He broke every code that he had. When you get into that line of work, you get into, be a paramedic, a firefighter, a police officer, a nurse, a doctor, a PSW, anything within that field, you have an oath that you take. And you have to follow that. And he didn't at all. So on February 10th, 2025, at the Barrie, Ontario courthouse, James was finally sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 20 years. I will note here that a court order stating James cannot see either child until they turn 18, but that's only if they choose to see him. Mm-hmm. James did say in a statement in court prior to his sentencing that he was haunted by what he did and he belonged where he was and he deserved that sentencing. I hope he is haunted in his afterlife. I hope to God that he gets what he deserves.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
And I'm going to end on a statement by Ashley's sister-in-law. James took Ashley's life in the most brutal, senseless way, leaving us all shattered. I already read that part. God, dude, I do that every time. I re-put it at the end. Avery, I did that last time too. I was like, I forgot to move it around. I know, because I was moving stuff around. I was adding some things in.
That's why editing is.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I love it.
We can edit it. That's
so James. Exactly. Yeah. So this just happened, sentencing in February. We did this episode not too long after that because I remember when this incident happened. And I remember when the news spread about this firefighter who killed his wife in Collingwood. And for us, like for me, it's really close to home. And I think she I feel like she ran in the same circle as my sister's sister-in-law. They were within the same business, same area. And I believe there was connections along the way. But, during COVID, we all heard about all these domestic issues and all these women trapped in their homes and domestic violence and, child abuse and stuff like that. And then you actually heard this big, small town. I wouldn't expect anything like that. I mean, we've had some small murders around, little things here and there. And most of the stuff is just, it's not really big news. And that one hit hard, especially with the community that it was in and who it happened to. So, especially when I found out he was sentenced, I'm like, we got to share the story. And not too long ago, I follow some groups on Facebook that talk about her and celebrate her. And they still bring up her birthday and, advocate for domestic violence and keep putting her name out there, which I think is amazing to do. And I'm pretty sure they do some walks and some runs in the area to honor her and do donations along that line too. Mm-hmm. So that is the unfortunate case of Ashley Milnes and the tragic ending to her life. But I'm glad her children are with her brother and so their uncle, and that, they're getting the therapy they deserve and they need and are living the best life they can.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so rough. Thank you for bringing that and sharing that with us. It's so devastating. Everything you had said about her in the beginning, I mean, how you said, like, she is the definition of lights up a room. Mm-hmm. And it's tragic at any life, but when you know the impact that someone is bringing all the time and how many people that affects, it's crazy. And the other thing is, like, I know we both talked about at the beginning of, like, how much we don't want to talk about the person who does it. And we did a lot just now, but that is because of how ridiculously insane these details, they matter to the story. They are key things that help you to piece things together. But it's just, it's bizarre. It's bizarre that people think they can do these things, or they get to this point where they're like, I'll get away with this. It's like, what is wrong with you? Just leave.
Yeah.
Just leave. You don't care about your kids, or you wouldn't have done this in the first place. So why are you even trying to make that fucking effort? Just leave.
Exactly.
I got aggressive. Sorry.
It's passion.
We want it to be the victim. That's what narcissists do. They just want to be able to play that victim.
Yes.
They want everyone to be, woe is me, everyone cry for me. Oh, I know all about that. And they want to be the one that was done wrong. And that's so sad. And they don't care about their children.
No.
Everything they do is for them, which is so sad. And when I started covering this case, I was mainly like, you know what? He's brought to justice. He killed his wife. I need to get her name out there. Looks like a beautiful soul. And I started to dig into it, and I was like blown away by everything. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, how? I honestly thought it was like a story that was made up. Like something you see in a, W channel movie. Like, it was absolutely nuts that he was supposed to be so smart. He was supposed to be a firefighter. Yeah, he knew about fire, that's for sure, but he didn't understand anything else.
No.
Completely, like, yes, you live in a small town. Why did you think no one would know?
It's like he had, like, this huge ego, like, God complex, and he just, like, was so fixated on his ego and him doing no wrong, and he was superior over her, and he deserved that life insurance rather than just pay out a divorce settlement. Like, you can tell that there's probably things that happened in his life that led to his personality and the narcissistic traits that he could possibly have, and he kind of did show at the end of Ashley's life. Like, you don't just, I don't know. There's things that, like, have led up to it.
Yeah, he's an entitled prick. That's just to put it succinctly. Like, he's an entitled prick.
And, like, he gotten away with so many things in his life.
He dated that guy's ex-wife.
Yeah. Like, he's an absolute douche.
Thought he was entitled.
Mm-hmm. Well, to Ashley Milnes, that is it. Mills, right? Within him.
Milnes. M-I-R and
her kids. I'm so glad that her kids are with her brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that is such a, it's a beautiful thing, but that is such a task for a grieving brother and the
Mhm.
family to that they're all working together just to do the best they can at that point. And so it's such a selfless and an amazing act on their end. And so people like that deserve all of the praise, all of the I'm
All the
like,
credit.
can I just hit the lotto? I just want to give money to people that do stuff like this because they deserve everything in life. Yes, they need it all. So,
And I hope it helps with their grieving too.
Well, just thank goodness she had someone so selfless in her life when she was also dealing with the most selfish man ever lived. So, they thank goodness that she had that on the other side.
Yeah, she seemed to have a really very supportive family who loved her. And her brother definitely loves her for him to take the children. And I understand why he took them. Obviously, her parents are too old. They can't take the children. But I know for me, if something ever happened to my sister, I would take my niece in a heartbeat because she's my sister.
Mhm.
It's like I'm getting her back.
Right.
And I think that's probably how he felt is like,
Yeah.
that's my siblings' kids. They are a part of me. They're a part of her. And I need to give them the life that she would have given them. So I think that's a beautiful thing. And it's a way for them to bond and a way for them to grieve together and help them heal, I think, in a way.
Mhm.
yeah. And it's a way to keep them, the kids, I know you said it, but keep those kids together because if they were to be taken, if they are to be put in the system in one way or another, you really don't know what's going to happen there.
No.
And so
Never going to.
I don't know if that's very different with you guys, but here in the States,
It's the thing. It's rough.
it's truly, truly tragic.
Yeah. Well, thanks for letting us share that on your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you guys for coming on. And I think it's also important to kind of see the good that can come from a tragic situation like that, like the family stepping up and, being able to, keep those, hold your niece and nephew even closer now. And also just kind of, I think there's you mentioned at the beginning, like this is a case that you kind of see as you can kind of see the red flags, right? When you look back on it, 2020 hindsight. But it's important that people see this because small town, it can happen anywhere, and it does. And so I think that's also important to highlight. So thank you for bringing that one. I'd actually never heard of that before. Heard of that case before, and it's very interesting how many parallels we were able to draw to other cases, that we've covered. And it's a very sad thing. Yeah, that's the way that it is. But that's why we have to keep these victims and survivors, their names out, because it's important that we remember that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. So we were happy to share a Canadian case with you guys and kind of get that story out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love that. Before we sign off, before we say our goodbyes, will you take a moment to just completely shout yourself out? Just give yourself all the props, tell everyone where they can find you, all the stuff, and socials, podcasts, platforms, all of it.
Yeah, definitely. Mandy and I joke around all the time. Like, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at TTCV Podcast, but don't go and look at our TikTok because it's not that great, and we don't quite know what we're doing, and it's hard, and I don't know how there's kids.
I'm 40. I don't know what I'm doing.
Some dance videos and all these trends. So you can look.
TikTok is a different world.
It's wild. You can look there. It's not great.
I know.
We tried. We kind of stopped, but
Feel that.
yeah. You can definitely find us on Instagram, though. Mandy does a wonderful job of really promoting, putting stuff out there. I'll get all the notifications and I'll accidentally open something and I'm like, I don't know what she's talking about here. Mandy, take back over because I don't know what I'm doing. So you can find us there, and then to listen to us,
That's Rachel. Rachel does everything for our Insta, and so when she'll be like, "Hey, look at this!" I'm like,
I know. I'll accidentally click to notification, thinking it's something on my personal account, and I'm like, I opened a message that I don't want to respond to because I'm pretty sure you're actually typing a response right now. Mandy's like, yeah. Don't touch it. 100%. And then
you guys are on all platforms,
All
podcast-wise and everything.
Yeah. So
I didn't even know how many there were.
I
before.
didn't
Like, it's
either.
insane.
There's so many.
When we started, I was like, okay, there's Spotify and there's Apple. No, we're on
I know.
everything.
Why do we need more than that, to be honest? Like, I just don't even understand it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
What is happening? I feel like there's too many platforms to get your real statistics from wherever people are listening. But
100%.
go listen to us everywhere.
I know that's what's so hard, and I feel like it. Yeah, and it used to be more centralized. I think it used to be, and then honestly, like everybody and their mother, I mean, us included, decided kind of like around COVID, let's start a podcast. I mean, like you guys, and I
Totally.
think, just because of that, like a lot of, and then like people are continuing to work from home. So I think it just became a thing. And now it's like, I don't think it's like centralized anymore. I think a lot of places jumped on the opportunity to be like, I can find a random statistic and tell you that your podcast is, charting here, there, and that place.
Yeah.
So, and at this point, they all have very similar names, chart, potty chart, pods, and arts. I mean, who knows what the real one is? So thank you guys for letting all of our listeners know exactly where they can find you on Instagram and a little bit of TikTok, but mostly let's just stick to Instagram. And thank you guys for coming on today. And we'll be sure to put all of that in the show notes so everyone knows exactly where they can find you, not on TikTok. I'm sure. I mean, this is another, our listeners should know by now, like this is just another one of those podcasting community besties that, it's been a long time coming, and I'm sure we will get the chance to record again, to each other. And you guys I just love seeing it's so fun to not only meet, but then also like when you actually record with other people in the podcasting community, like so many parallels and so many like, oh, save. And it's really great to have that camaraderie. So thank you guys so much for coming on. And for all of our listeners, we will be back. And the next time we come back, it's going to be our 3-year podiversary. So that's exciting. Rachel and I have some fun stuff planned, and it's crazy. We cannot, it feels like yesterday, but then also like it feels like, oh my God, we've been doing this forever. So very excited. Listeners are gonna have a lot of fun for their ear holes. But again, thank you so much for coming on, and we hope that all of our listeners have an amazing week and stay safe out there. And you guys know how we sign off every episode, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Rachel, you have to start though.
Oh, I have to start? I like you were doing the whole
I
thing.
don't know how to do it. Like, I'm always the second one. I can't do it first.
Well, you just did the whole spiel. So, okay, the whole spiel just happened. We will talk to you guys next week. Okay, love you. Bye.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Okay, love you. Bye.
I love it. That's always my favorite part of having guests on, is hearing them do it. It's my favorite thing ever.